Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the City of South Fulton's Development Authority meeting. And happy Black History Month to everybody. And Mr. Clerk, if you're here.
Yes, sir.
You would be so kind to please call the roll.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. This is the roll call for the South Fulton Development Authority meeting for February 22nd, 6 p.m. The Honorable Mark Baker, Chairman.
Present.
The Honorable Jamal Grooms, Vice Chairman.
Present.
The Honorable Arnold Jiggetts, Secretary Treasurer.
Present.
Your Honorable Thant Coleman, who is actually coming into the meeting now. I'll move on. The Honorable Alicia Ivey, Director.
Present.
The Honorable Mercedes Miller, Director.
Present.
The Honorable Andrew Pierson, Director. The Honorable Derek Pollard, Director.
Here.
And the Honorable Rick Ross, Director.
Here.
And the Honorable Thant Coleman, Director.
I am here.
Mr. Chairman and members, directors, you do have a quorum. I also note that Ms. Amelia Walker is present, as well as I believe our consultant from the Vivo 360.
Yes, Sophie Gibson. Hi,
Thank you.
everyone.
Hi. Thank you so
Good
much.
evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. And Director Pierson will be joining us shortly as well. You can sound the first item.
The next item is approval of the meeting agenda.
I'll entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve the minutes, or that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Let's vote.
Roll call vote, approval of the meeting agenda. Chairman Baker,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Ivey,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
and Director Ross.
Aye.
That item is approved unanimously.
Receive. Ms. Clerk, you can sound the next item, please.
Next item is approval of the January 25th, 2021 Development Authority meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the January meeting minutes.
Second, Pollard.
It's been probably moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Roll
Take a
call
vote, please.
vote. Roll call vote. Chairman Baker.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grooms.
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts.
Aye.
Director Coleman.
Aye.
Director Ivey.
Abstain.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Pollard.
Aye.
And Director Ross.
Aye.
That item is approved with one abstention.
Copy received. Noted. Continue to the next item, please.
The next item is public comment. Mr. Chairman and directors, as of 4 p.m. today, we did not receive any public comment via the email system.
Copy and received. Thank you. Please sound the next item.
Next item, item 6A, discussion, South Fulton Development Authority training.
Receive. I believe, Mr. Clerk, this is you. You have us, or you and Attorney Walker collectively?
Actually, Attorney Walker and I collaborate on this, but I think she has the report for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, good
Yeah,
evening,
before-
directors. Can you hear me?
Evening, yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so I just want to share some of the information that we've been able to compile as far as the training session. So we've received, so let's see, I've reached out to Serenbe, which is in Chattahoochee Hills, as well as the Loft. and the loft is going to email me pricing information. I might have gotten an email from them actually a couple of minutes ago. Let me see if this has. Okay, so I'll come back to the loft, but so I've been in contact with Sarah B, and if I can share my screen, give me 1 second. And just as an FYI, you do have approximately, or when you approved your last budget, you authorized 15,000, or you budgeted 15,000 for training. You have not used any of those amounts yet. As you may recall, the training that you previously participated in predated that budgeting. So that does not include the cost for that initial training. But if you went forward with Serenity, I will show you, let me give you a list of the items that I thought would be relevant for your training, and I'll see if I can share my screen. Give me 1 second. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
No. Okay, give me one more second. Let me. Okay, what about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so as far as the training,
Oh, Miss Walker, it
Yes.
says powers and authority, financing bonds. I don't know if that's what you want us to see.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as the training, let me go back because it's not up on my screen now. Okay, so I think top topics that will be relevant for the training. One, I think kind of going through the statute that regulates your powers and your authority so that you can get a better idea of what exactly the state anticipates or expects out of development authorities. So kind of just going through, just giving a summary of the development authority statute itself for the state of Georgia. And then also just refreshing the authority on the bylaws that have been adopted. Kind of just what is expected annually, what you have in place with your bylaws. So basically a 101 on the state code as well as the bylaws that are in place. In addition to that, I think it would be also be relevant to have a finance official come in to give you information on the different types of financing that you're going to be dealing with as you execute and you go through the processes that are typical to development authorities. And that is with respect to bonds too. So I would have someone separate come in for the bonds, just like a bond attorney who deals with bond attorneys and bond transactions and kind of go over the basics, give you a one-on-one on those type transactions. And then also to have other authorities at a glance. I think it would be helpful if we compiled information as to what other authorities in the state of Georgia are doing. You may or may not want to engage in those activities, but I think at least knowing and having an ideal of what other authorities are doing would be helpful. So I would estimate it would take probably, that would be about 3 to 4 presenters. And that would take probably, ideally, that would take no less than 4 hours. And then if you added in breakfast and lunch, we're probably, and if you have, or if you added in meal, I'm not going to say breakfast and lunch because I do need clarification from you there. But if you added in, just time for food and you had a working lunch, breakfast, whatever the food is, if you work through it, then that would add on probably about another hour. So we're talking about 5 hours minimum for these items as well as food. And then I also think it's good for you to have a mission and vision session. And I think Director Pollard sent some excellent suggestions that I think speaks directly to the mission. What do you envision doing with the development authority within the powers that are allowable to the authority, what would be your priorities? What would you prioritize? Like, for example, I know I've spoken to Director Jiggetts. I know he was very excited, and he saw the great things that were going on with the city of Atlanta for their small business programs. So I know that he was, in talking to him, he appeared excited about potentially doing something similar, for the city of South Fulton. And I just a lot of the issues that have been raised as far as what your authority is and what you're going to elect to engage in, what type of development do you think would be ideal to search out and pull potentially, or try to pull into the city. So I think all of that would be part of a great mission and vision session where you're able to each share your ideals with each other and just hear, what each of your individual visions are and come collectively to have a collective vision and mission. That would probably take about 4 hours. So I do have the facilitator present that we've spoken to previously about potentially facilitating. And her name is Sophie Gibson, and she's on the line now.
Hi.
And
Hello, Ms. Gibson.
Yes.
Yeah. So her role would basically be just to kind of get you through each presentation, and then the last 4 hours. And I know she suggested it could potentially take more than 4 for the strategy session, but at a minimum, we would need 4 for her to incorporate that mission and vision and team building session into the last component of the training. So I would call this, I wouldn't necessarily call this retreat, training more than a retreat, because it's going to incorporate training as well as your vision and your mission. We're looking at about, ideally, I would say 9 to 10 hours. So you have 2 options that I would recommend, and I would just need direction from you as to if either of these are suitable. The first would be where you did the training in 1 day. And that would consist of, just taking a day where you have 9 hours to be able to engage in these activities. And the other option is so basically you would come in the morning, breakfast would be set up, you would eat, work through breakfast, or have the presentations through breakfast, you would have a lunch, then you would go into the vision and mission portion, which would be the second 4 to 5 hours, and then you would be completed at the end. Now, that's option 1. Option 2 would be to come in and split it up in 2 days. And Saren B has communicated that they do have overnight availability if you wanted to split it up in 2 days. And I'm going to share on my screen to give you an idea of what the budget would potentially be. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you see that on the screen, the estimated budget?
Yes, we can see. I can see it.
Okay, so the facilitator cost would be approximately $3,000. The meeting space would be $500. So if you had the session in 1 day, it would be $500. If you split it into 2 days, it would be $1,000. And then the presenters, the rough estimate for that would be $3,000. Now the food, it's either going to be breakfast and lunch or dinner and breakfast. If you do it in 1 day, it would be breakfast and lunch. If you did it split it into 2 days, it would be, you would come in sometime that afternoon, you would start, and then you would have a dinner that night, and then retreat to your rooms, and then the next morning you would have breakfast, and then you'd complete the second half. So the food, regardless of which scenario you do, would be approximately, I would say at the most, it should be in the 1,500 range. If you look, it's $28 on average for breakfast. And I would say I anticipate you'll have at the most 15 people present, which is the 9 directors, myself, the Mr. Adams or whoever is sent from the clerk's office, and then the presenters who come in. So I don't anticipate that number to go over 15. So if you multiply 15 times 28 for breakfast, that's where I came out with the 420. And it's the same thing for lunch. Lunch average 45 a person, which would be $675. If you stayed for dinner, it would be about $975. So either scenario, your food isn't anticipated to go above $1,500. And then if you do it in one day, of course, there's no accommodation. And if you split it into 2 days, then the accommodations would be approximately $2,820. So I guess the question I have is, what is the temperament of the board as far as whether you want to try to fit everything in one day or whether the preference is to stay and split it into 2 days. And then I will also show you the dates that are available at CRMB. Give me 1 second.
Well, wait, Attorney Walker, before you go into the dates, let's go ahead and at least I would like to open the discussion for the board to opine on how they contend regarding what you've said thus far. The floor is open.
I would rather do just one day. That's just my personal preference. And then the second part of that is a question. Are we still able to do this remotely, or do we absolutely need to show up?
I believe that she opined that lawfully you can tap in with us remotely if you weren't comfortable. And I do agree with you on the one day, but I will go with the will of the board. Anybody else?
Yes, Director
Director
Jiggetts here. Madam Attorney,
Yes.
in your experience, what have you seen as far as the time restraints and or requirements to properly execute this type of activity?
So how long would it take to set up?
Not to set up, but to execute the whole, like how much time is general? Do you need 2 days? Do you think you can squeeze it in one? What's the best format in your experience?
Oh, you would need at least 9 hours to do the program I described. And that could start at 8 o'clock and then go through, what would that be? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 4, 5. So 8 to 5.
And I would say just with the process of the mission and vision, we did have with the city this same service with Miss Bunny Ransom Jackson and Miss Sophie Gibson. We did that before. And Sophie, can you chime and advise how long did it take? Were we 2 days? Because I know it was open. But I remember it taking some time, and with us adding, of course, the training, it's the amalgamation of both. I do understand the 9 hours, which means it'll be a very, very long day, even if we started at the beginning. But Sophie, can you opine as far as the time that it took with
Sure.
us for the very same
So we
undertaking?
sure. Thank you. I'm assuming that was you, Mr. Baker, speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So we took a few. I think it was a couple days, mainly because we had the naming component involved at one point, and so that took a little while. It depends on what you want. For a strategic session, the outcome that I was told is to have a mission and a vision at the end of the 4 sessions. Now, if you're going to add other things, and I was talking to Ms. Walker earlier, for example, out of this, you want some kind of messaging, including your slogan, what is, I asked if there is if you already have a slogan, specific projects, have quick messaging sometimes. And if you want to have something else, that's another component from this strategic session. So right now, I understand it to be mission and vision. I think the 4 hours would be sufficient. But if you're adding other components, I really think based on the load that I'm hearing, it feels like it's a 2-day scenario, because strategic sessions are just that. It can be very stressful. And so it's up to you. But back a couple years back, we did, I believe it was a couple days.
Madam Attorney,
Yes.
for clarity, does the pricing of the facilitator change if we do 1 versus 2 days?
Well, she's present. I guess she can clarify that for you. If they break it up, Ms. Gibson, would there be a difference in the price?
Well, I can't speak for the other facilitators, but if the goal is to, if the intention is the 2 specific outcomes, then if that for my session, then the price would be the same. If you're adding on, because I'm doing the facilitation, so it's going from 1 to 2 days, then of course the price would change based on the facilitation that I'm doing. Does that make sense? So there are 2 things that I'm told that I'm doing. 1, I'm facilitating the whole day, including presenting the presenters. So if that's stretched to 2 days, then my cost would change. I'm assuming that the presenters, they won't be presenting twice. It would just be they either come, a Monday or they come the Tuesday. But for me, if I'm going to be there 2 days facilitating, then yes. But my strategic session cost would be the same, because those hours would remain the same.
I understand. Thank you.
And I will say this too. I've just received pricing information from the loft. And Chairman Baker, this is the facility that the city council went to in Peachtree City. I don't know if you recall, approximately a year and a half ago to 2 years.
Yes, I'm
So
familiar.
they are available. If you are not going to stay overnight, then I would recommend considering the loft. It has a really nice space to social distance. So it's not a cramped space. It's a really nice facility. And I'm looking at the pricing information they sent, and the food is probably half the price. It averages about 16 per person for breakfast, and then lunch averages about 18 to 22. It looks like 24 is the high. So the food would be substantially cheaper at the loft. And, I did attend with the council, and, the food was really nice. The service was nice. And it appears it's also cheaper to rent the room at the loft too. The price would be, let's see, let me go back up. And the price would be $250. So if you did the Augusta or the Savannah room, that would be $125, and then $250 for the largest room. However, their availability is slightly different. They have availability for all Mondays in March and all Fridays except March 26th. And the only Saturday they have in March is March 6th and March 13th and 20th.
Well, let me say this real quick, and I want to allow other board members, if they have comments, to jump in. What is the possibility of us breaking it in half, even if we did say our mission and vision and had that one session, and then later as the training component did it again following it? It seems like it would be probably cheaper and less stressful, as opposed to trying to cram 9 days together. I know everybody has busy schedules. I'm willing to, of course, I don't count. Don't worry about me. I'm going to go along with the will of the board. But I think that it may save us money when it comes to the overnight component, as well as, the idea of going with the loft. If we came back twice, even if we had to be fed for 2 separate days, we wouldn't be in overkill, and neither will it come to the same amount of money as we will be paying in Chattahoochee Hills. But the floor is open. Anybody want to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good idea. I'm in favor of not cramming the process, having ample time to be efficient and take it all in and come out productive and very clear on our direction. Don't want to exaggerate the budget. We have budgeted for this. It sounds like we're extremely under budget for this. So I'm for a process that is less stressful, that allows us to be most productive.
Receive. Anybody else?
Question, this is Mercedes. So what you're suggesting is that we do 2 4.5-hour sessions versus 1 9-hour session.
Well, I think that it's up to us to decide. We
No,
would have
I'm
to
just
vote.
asking, is that what you are suggesting? Because I like that better than
Well,
9 hours.
Well, I just was throwing it out there, given that the loft is probably more cost efficient. It may open up the opportunity for that. But I do understand that if you guys are going to carve a day out of your schedule, it would be the desire of the board to determine whether or not we're going to go ahead and stick it out, given that, you guys are professionals and, most people have, work throughout the day and time is of great importance. And I wouldn't want to hinder anyone, to have to attend. But I said, ultimately, however we decide, that would be how we moved on. And I think that we are under budget, and I don't want to even carry it as if like, to stay overnight at training is something that, is out of line or something that we shouldn't do, because we do it. It's a component because of the overkill and the overload that comes along with sessions like this. But ultimately, I would like the board to decide, and we move forward from there.
Chairman Maker, may I have the floor, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I believe because we are doing a lot of foundational work, which is very critical to our board and critical to the Development Authority, that it's prudent for us to look at breaking these sessions up so that we can have all of the information that's critical for us to have at this present time, and also moving forward to just establish a really good foundation. I really believe how we start out is how we finish. And I know that with the professionals that we have on board, with our board, that we all want to start out right and finish right. And so this is the foundation for us starting this. And I think it's so important that we don't rush the process. I yield the floor.
Receive. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Chairman, this is Attorney
Yes, ma'am.
Walker. May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to put in that it's maybe better to have the overview, like the other authorities at a glance, and the overview of the statutory limits of your authority. It may be better to have that before you have the vision mission, just because it would give you a better idea of what your options are.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But that would be contingent on us doing the 2 days. And if anybody else has any comments, I would love to hear them before we entertain any type of motion.
It sounds like some, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Thant. Sorry for jumping in there, but what about even the best of both worlds? If we agree to the 2-day, obviously there will be some folks that want to attend on site. As of now, I think that I would like to come in and sit down. But do you do 1 day on site and the other day is virtual only? Would that that might remedy any budget issues, and at the same time, we've got 2 days to ingest the information. Just a thought. I'm going to be good either way.
So I was going to say, it sounds as if several of our contemporaries are comfortable with 2 days, as am I. I'm probably going to opt for remote as it is right now, but 2 days, it sounds great to me. And a Saturday sounds even better.
See, I believe Director Pierce has joined. Is that so, Mr. Clerk?
That is correct. He arrived at 6:30 p.m.
All right. Yes, and I
Apologize for the tardiness, everybody.
Okay. As of now, just so you know, we're discussing the training and vision sessions, the possibility of breaking them up into 2 days, as we've learned that there'll be approximately 9 hours in total to take in, but we could possibly split it up between 4.5 hours each day. Of course, the dates are TBA, but at the same time, the locations are either in B or the loft in Peachtree City. And if we are moving forward with Serenbe, there would be the possibility, if we did decide to go straight through, for us to stay overnight. If not, the loft would be possibly a better option as far as finances go. But at the same token, that would be decided upon based off of the 2 days as opposed to the 1 day. And it seems like there's more of an appetite for the 2 day, but I would love to get further feedback if there's any. And I just want you to have that information, and I'll confer and comment, and then we'll move forward.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Yes, but Director Jiggetts.
Say again, sir.
You have the floor, sir.
I think we should use caution, and I could be totally mistaken, but in my experience, sometimes how you plan things, they never go that way. So just in us preparing to participate in these activities, I think completely, unless the facilitator has a hard stop at 4.5 hours, we may consider that, this process probably could extend past there. And if that is a possibility, I think that would also lend to a question to the facilitator: would that change the budget again? Meaning, if we break these opportunities up into 2 sessions and we get in it, the getting is good, there's a lot of information that's being, transferred back and forth, and we happen to go past 4.5 hours, are we paying for the time or are we paying for the end product? And I think I heard that we're paying for the outcome more so than the time, unless it's broken up into 2 complete sessions. But I think we should consider that, and maybe the facilitator could speak a little more to that about the possibility of, it not being a complete 4.5 hours.
Right. Of course, everything is within reason. So if we're going 8 hours later, clearly it wouldn't be at the same cost. But, within reason, if we're going an hour over, as long as we got to the outcome, then you're good from a budget standpoint. But if you're doubling the time, then clearly, as I said, within reason, we'd have to discuss, and maybe that's a good thing for me to come up with. What would that hourly rate be if you were to? But we have a pretty stringent process that it does allow for free discussion, but at the same time we have specific points that we have to meet based on the process. And so if it does go over, it's not going to go over more than an hour.
I received that. I just wanted to point out and hope that nobody, plans maybe for an exact 4.5 hard stop because they have to, have another engagement. I would definitely caution us to just, give ourselves a little cushion. That's all.
Yeah, I understand that, Director Jiggetts, but just so you know, this company is, it consists of trained professionals, and they have time allotted for our passion. And normally, that time it's in that 4.5 hours, and they keep us focused the entire time through. They did a great job with the council as far as doing that too. So sometimes, the heart stops might be on conversation more so, than actually, coming for a remedy or resolve. But that's why I think we would do training and probably do one full day with Vivo 360 workout. And albeit it would probably be, Sophie, we know you're at gym, and it would probably be amazing to have you facilitate when we have the training, but I think we can get through with that, especially if we weren't intending on doing 2 days with who presenters are. But I believe everyone is up to speed. I don't see anyone in a queue, and I'm not missing any chats. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
And can the motion clarify the location first? Because as far as picking dates, that's going to depend on the location, whether you do it at the Loft or Serenbe.
Receive. Director Jiggetts, you have the floor.
Yes, I would like to make a motion. I move that we consider doing a 2-day process for our training at Serenbe.
Okay, is there a second? That fails for a lack of a second. And just to be clear, Serenbe is the separate location, the alternative location to the Loft, or is one of the two. Is there any other motions?
I second, but you didn't hear me. I was on mute.
Oh, okay. So there's a second. There's a motion on the floor to have our sessions at Serenbe broken up into 2 days. Any discussion?
And for clarification, is that overnight? Or is that 2 separate dates with no overnight?
Director Jiggetts, does it make the motion?
Yes, I would think that would be contingent upon the availability of the venue. If overnight is an option, I think that could be viable. Again, we've budgeted for it. It sounds like we're super under budget, and we wouldn't exceed our budget or probably even get close to it. I'm flexible either way, honestly.
Well, it's your motion. You have to
Right,
make
so-
the motion.
Where's Serenbe? I'm sorry. Where's
Wait,
Serenbe?
one second, Director Pierson. We'll fill you
Okay.
in the discussion.
So I'll refine my motion to include it to be 2 separate days without overnight stay. I live 10 minutes. I don't think I would need to be overnight at Serenbe personally.
Okay, and that's been second. So discussion, Director Pierson.
I was just asking for clarification, and let me say for the record, I apologize for being late. I had something else that ran a little longer than I expected. But so where is Serenbe? Because that will go into my vote as to whether or not we do an overnight or whether we do one long stay. I apologize.
Okay, Madam Attorney, you want to be clear? Serenbe is actually in Chattahoochee Hills. The Loft is located in Peachtree City. Those are the 2 options that we were in. Serenbe has an option for overnight. The Loft is not even that type of.
Okay.
Director Pierce,
Yeah, so that answered my question. It's actually pretty close. So what would be the benefit, since Chattahoochee Hills is not too far from the airport? I live really close to the airport. What would be the benefit of doing an overnight versus driving for 4.5, 5 hours, going to the meeting and coming back for another 4.5, 5 hour meeting?
That's, I guess, Director Jiggetts, you want to?
Well, I think I amended my motion to say, that I was okay if we did not do overnights. I personally live 10 minutes away from Serenbe, so I wouldn't see an advantage for me. But if it was to anyone else's benefit that they stayed and it was more convenient for them, I think that would be quite okay. So, Director Pierson, I'm not certain that I see an absolute benefit unless it's convenient for a director, and I would support a director who maybe needed to have that accommodation met. Personally, it doesn't work. It's not necessary for me.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And I guess the pros and cons are the loft is further, but it's cheaper. And then Serenbe, is closer, but it's more expensive.
Correct.
And the loft is the long 9-hour day. Serenbe is 2 days, correct?
Well, no, the loft you can do 2 days as well. And actually, the loft is the location. Was that Director Grooms speaking?
Pierson?
No.
Or
Director
Pierson?
Pierson.
Yeah, Director Pierson. Do you remember the location where you met up with me and the mayor signed your goodness, it was the document where you were attesting for your oath.
Yeah, where I was sworn in. Okay, I remember that location.
Yeah, it's that location.
Okay, I got it.
But either facility, you'd be able to do 2 days without having to stay overnight. The loft, obviously, you can't stay overnight because they don't provide overnight accommodations. But at either facility, you'd be able to do 2 days.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Not for me.
This is Thant. I'd just like to offer. I understand that we've obviously made the motion and it's been seconded, but would we be better served polling directors and asking either Serenbe or the loft? Make sense?
Well, I have to currently carry. That's why I was trying to get everybody to engage prior to entertaining the motions. But as of now, the motion has been made.
Exactly.
If it's voted down, then we can go back and we can take that route. Or if there's an amendment made, or if he would like to motion, like all of those things are things that are possible. But is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I made the motion after we had a discussion and there didn't seem to be one particular preference over one or the other. So I made a motion just to move us forward. I don't have a particular preference. I'm flexible, but I made the motion because we had discussion prior to, as you allowed us to have. And again, I made the motion in an attempt to move us forward.
So are you willing to withdraw your motion and take the recommendation of Director Coleman, or do you want to move forward? I'll allow you that privilege.
There was a second to the motion. I'm okay if you take a vote on it. Okay,
Mr. Clerk, what's the procedure?
Yeah, if he wants to withdraw the motion, then he just has to withdraw the motion, and he doesn't need the seconder to agree, or we can carry the motion as presented.
Okay, so Director Jiggetts, would you like to withdraw?
I couldn't hear Mr. Chairman.
Director Jiggetts.
Okay, I couldn't hear you, Mr. Chairman. What was the question?
I said, would you like to withdraw your motion?
Sure, if there's a strong contingency for it to be withdrawn.
Go ahead, Mr. Clerk. Just carry his motion
Okay.
forward,
So-
and if it fails, we'll move forward.
Okay, so motion by Director Jiggetts, with a second by Director Grooms to proceed with the Serenbe location with a 2-day process without overnight stay. Roll call vote, Chairman Baker,
Nay.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Yes, aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Yes.
Director Coleman,
Nay.
Director Ivey,
Wait, I think Director Ivy's had an issue with her power.
oh, okay.
So she should be rejoining us as soon as she can.
Okay. Director Miller,
Nay.
you said nay?
Yes.
Okay. Director Pierson, Director Pierson,
Yes, I'm sorry. I had you on mute. Apologize for that.
and what's your vote?
Aye. Yes.
Aye, okay. Director Pollard,
Mr. Adams, could you repeat the motion? Just repeat the motion. I need to understand what I'm voting.
the motion is to proceed with a 2-day meeting process at the Serenbe location without overnight stay.
Aye.
And Director Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 5 yeas and 2 nays.
Copy. That motion passes then, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what are our next steps, Madam Attorney?
So the next steps would be selecting the dates. And if you look at the screen, are you able to still see the dates in the calendar that I have pulled up?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Mondays, I inquired about a Monday, Friday, or Saturday because we weren't planning 2 days at that point. Now, from talking to them, you probably will not have a problem with getting a Tuesday. So if you pick a Monday, you'll probably certainly be able to get the Tuesday afterwards. So I guess it depends. When you say 2 days, were you planning on doing 2 days back to back, or were you going to split it up? And if you wanted 2 Saturdays, I mean, you can see on the chart they have the 13th and the 27th. I just need direction from you. Did you want to do back-to-back dates, or did you want to split the dates up?
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you for 1 second, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Coleman, did you register your vote?
I called nay. Is that
Oh.
what you're referring to?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I had your vote correct.
You did. I believe I
Okay.
was the second nay.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Walker.
Just for the record, Mr. Clerk, for your records, I believe there may have been 3 nays. Director, I think I heard a third nay. I'm
Director
uncertain.
Miller, I think.
Yes,
Yes,
Baker,
Director Miller.
Baker, Miller, and Coleman, 5-3.
Receive. You can continue, Madam Attorney.
Yeah, so I would just need clarification from the board as to whether you want to have consecutive days, or you want to split it up. Like, do you want to do 2 Mondays, 2 Fridays, a Monday and a Friday and a Saturday, or 2 back-to-back dates? What's the board's temperament?
So
Is,
my preference is, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You have the floor. Go ahead, Director.
No, I was just going to say my preference would be to do 2 Saturdays.
Receive. Anyone else? I have Director Pollard. Go ahead.
Yes, I may be going back to a previous issue, but to me, Chattahoochee Hills and Serenbe, that's a hike for some people. So my thought was for the folks, and I want to do it remotely, so I won't be going down there. But I think for the folks that want to participate and be there, I think it may make sense to leave the option open for those people to stay overnight. I just can't imagine just saying, okay, we're going to have 2 days, especially if it's back to back. We're going to have 2 days and then folks have to drive home and then come back. I just can't imagine that. But again, I'm probably going to opt to go remotely, but I'd like to have that option for the folks that, again, are driving down there.
I think Director Pollard, that was a part of his motion. The clerk, you can clarify for us, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, that is correct. The motion had a provision without overnight stay.
Yes, without overnight stay. But my point is, for those who are going to be there, I think the option they should be allowed to stay overnight rather than drive home and then come back.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. 1 second, Director Jiggetts. I just wanted to say something. I thought initially, and Mr. Clerk, I just want to clarify. I thought Director Jiggetts said for those individuals who wanted to stay overnight, that's what the provision was. Just for clarity, you're advising that it wasn't that he changed, that's not what you have as the motion.
Right. Yeah. I have that he changed it and said, because I think you asked him to choose one or the other, and he indicated that this motion would entail without overnight stay.
Okay.
I like to raise my hand when it's my turn.
Yes,
Andrew
I'll
Pierson.
recognize you, Director Pierce, right after Director Jiggetts. If
Got it.
only if you're clear, Director Pollard. Are you done?
Sure. I just wanted to make that clear that I think folks should be able to stay overnight if they choose to do so. So yes, I yield the floor.
Receive. And if there's a concession, we can come back and we can vote again. But Director Jiggetts wanted to chime in after you.
Yes, Mr. Adams, I apologize if I wasn't clear, but it was my intentions to accommodate any of my fellow directors if they needed the accommodation to stay overnight. That was my intention if I was not clear.
Well, my suggestion would be to do a motion for reconsideration and ask to reconsider the vote to allow for persons wishing to stay overnight to do so. But keep in mind that it sounds like you guys are going to do these weeks apart versus days apart, or versus a day apart.
Well, we haven't made a decision yet, and I think that we're gonna. I hope we don't run down the rabbit hole with that, because what I was going to ask you, Madam Attorney, was if we were staying overnight, it would probably be befitting to just continue the next day while we're there. Like that seems like it would make more sense, and it would be probably less expensive if we did it that way. But nonetheless, if Director Jiggetts, if you want to make a motion to reconsider, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to reconsider.
To allow for overnight, okay.
To allow for overnight accommodations.
Is there a second?
I second Director Pierson.
Hey, what's happening?
Probably move in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, a motion has been made by Director Jiggetts, seconded by Director Pierson, to reconsider the previous motion to allow for overnight stay.
Being supportive of.
Director Jiggetts, please mute your phone.
Is everyone clear on the motion?
Yes, I thought the motion to reconsider would have us a separate vote, and then we would go back into that motion.
That's correct. You ready for me to carry the vote?
Yes. And this
Chair-
vote is on the motion to reconsider.
Reconsider, yes, sir. Chairman Baker,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Pierson,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
and Director Ross.
Aye.
That motion is approved.
Okay. Now, Director Jiggetts will entertain your motion.
I would like to make a motion that we consider Serenbe and allow for overnight accommodations for any director that may need those accommodations for a 2-day event.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, would that include staff as well, or just the directors? Like if the facilitator or like, do you want me to limit it to directors?
You want to clarify your motion, Director Jiggetts? If we're going to bring up staff and they're not going to be a part of the first day or the second day, I don't know if we should do it that way. It seems like an extra cost to incur if they're not going to be presenting on that day.
So limit it to first day participants, is that?
Yeah, I mean, Director Jiggetts, this is your motion. I don't want to hijack it, but
Right. Let me ask, would a day of presenter need accommodations for overnight?
I don't think, I know that, like, I know the clerk staff typically stays overnight. Typically when the city does it, people who stay the entire program through overnight. If you have it back to back.
Well, I like to add, if that's the culture, and it's, I would think that it would be fitting that if staff had to accommodate us and stay overnight and it was within budget that we've already allotted for, I think that would be appropriate.
Is there a second?
Yes, Mr. Grooms previously seconded the motion.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? I think I had Director Ivey.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you so much.
Did you have a discussion you want to share?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If there's none, Mr. Clerk, you can carry the vote.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the motion, make sure we got it correctly here. The motion is by Director Jiggetts with a second by Director Grooms to allow a 2-day process for your training at Serenbe and to have a provision to allow directors to stay overnight if necessary. And if the budget allows, to allow staff to stay overnight as well. Is that correct in terms of your motion, Director Jiggetts?
Yes, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Baker, you ready for the vote?
Yes, sir. Please carry the vote.
Chairman Baker,
Nay.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Nay.
Director Ivey,
Nay.
Director Miller,
Nay.
Director Pierson,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
and Director Ross.
Nay.
That motion fails 4-5.
Okay, Madam Attorney, where would that leave us? Because the other motion carried regardless.
I have discussion. I still have questions. So when you're ready, when it's my turn, Matt,
You have the floor.
Chairman. Okay. So I think there wasn't enough discussion for the motion to fail. I think the first motion that we had, I had assumed incorrectly that it gave directors an option. As I mentioned earlier, I live 5-10 minutes away. I planned on not staying. Number one. Number two is my vote. If we had to do the dates, it would be on 2 separate Saturdays, as Director Grooms articulated. So having them back to back, if someone lives far away, does make sense for them to be able to stay overnight. So I'm just curious from a discussion point of view, why we had the discussion, and it didn't seem like anybody would say nay unless they gave their opinion as to why they voted against it. So I would like to hear, for the directors who voted nay, what were the questions, concerns, or what led you to say no?
Well, just so you know, I mean, they can share if they'd like. There wasn't an abstention, but I can't say that I just felt that we probably should have gone a different route anyway. I voted nay initially just because we decided Serenbe as opposed to the loft. I really don't have an issue with the actual state if we're going to go that way. But because I was against it initially, I didn't feel it's suitable for me to continue to vote in a different fashion.
Okay.
This is Thant Coleman. I'll chime in and say a couple of those same things. I voted nay initially. I don't feel that we really had an opportunity to vote whether Serenbe or the loft at the same time, and to the point that was made, if we stayed with back-to-back days, perhaps at Serenbe or something like that, then it would make more sense for some people to stay overnight. But again, if we're doing 2 Saturdays, overnight shouldn't necessarily be an option. And there's no reason in my mind not to choose the loft as a venue. It's cheaper. And at the same time, unless I misunderstood, the ability to social distance is much better at the loft.
Right. And with that being said, I believe that the motion has still passed nonetheless. And if it is going to be separate days, the requirement to stay overnight, it just kind of seems no. Now, if it's back to back, as Director Coleman says, I agree. But as of right now, I think that it would probably be more befitting to have the discussion on whether or not we wanted to be back, and then we could consider that. Because
agree.
if it's not back to back, you could just drive home. We're dealing with a 4.5 day. You can drive home. That's not even a full work day. All of us can drive home. If it's back to back, it makes sense. So we won't have to get up and come back the next day, I believe. So I'll entertain a motion for any of these dates that we currently have on the screen.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
You recognize?
Can I would like clarity on exactly. So we just voted down the piece of the original motion to not do the overnight. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'd like to pose a question, if I may. My understanding was that the original motion, not just a piece, but that the original motion was basically recalled. I may not be using the proper term, but which was recalled. There was another motion in its place made. We just voted that down. So in my mind, there is nothing existing. Is that correct?
Mr. Clerk, I believe he's correct.
Well, technically, and I'm gonna have to defer to Ms. Walker. Technically, it should have been a rescind the first vote, then a reconsideration. But since it was reconsidered, it wasn't rescinded. So technically, I think the main motion is on the floor. But I'll defer to Ms. Walker on that.
Yeah, so that's correct. When you reconsider, it keeps the main motion, but you're discussing whether or not you're going to change the motion. So the motion stays in place, but then you vote. So you voted to reconsider whether you would change it. So you agreed to reconsider it, and then when you voted on whether you were going to change it or not, you did not change it. So the original motion stays in place, which is Serenbe with no overnight.
Yeah, but
I'm clear.
well,
That-
but
and
hold on. I'm sorry. What happened, right? There was the motion, the original motion passed. There was then the motion to reconsider. We voted, I believe, unanimously to reconsider. There was then a second, I'm sorry, not a second, but another motion that was made that was voted down. So does that equal the same circumstance, Attorney Walker?
Yes, it does. So when you vote to reconsider, you're voting whether we're going to even have the discussion and vote on the change. Because if you vote down the first subsequent motion, if you vote that down, that means that you're not even going to talk about what the change is. So
Right,
you
so
guys agreed that you would talk about the change. So you did. I moved that we reconsider. That passed. So now you can talk about it. And when you talked about it,
but
and
you're
did the
leaving
vote
out
to
the
change
vote
it.
that followed that. We voted to reconsider. The
So that means you're
vote
gonna
to
talk about
reconsider passed. Then there was a motion made that failed.
Yeah. So your attempt to change it failed. You were
So if
attempting
he-
to
Gotcha.
change it.
Gotcha.
So
Understood.
if he
Correct.
really wanted to change it completely, he just needed to rescind it, correct?
Correct.
Right. But that's not what happened. It was a
Right.
reconsideration. So
Right.
therefore
Now
his
it's-
motion still stands.
Well, it sounds like there might be,
And that was my intention.
to rescind it.
No, not
To reconsider it
correct.
and add on something.
Correct.
Okay.
Understood.
Now you can do a motion to reconsider the location, but someone who voted on the prevailing side for the law, for Serenbe would have to make that motion.
Right. That the appetite for that didn't come up. I don't want to get us in the weeds, but this has never happened before I mean with me. So I do understand it, and I also understand the explanation, and I appreciate you clearing it up. I think now where we have it is the motion has passed, Serenbe, 2 days, and now we need to determine when those 2 days are. With no overnight.
So I think
So I'll entertain a motion from any of the directors for the 2 days out of the days that I presented on the screen.
So
I would like
I
to make a
move-
motion. Go right ahead.
Director
I'll-
Coleman, you have the floor.
Before you make a motion, can I give you points of information on, I think that would be relevant before you make a motion?
Yes.
So the finance advisor, his birthday is on March 12th. So he will not be able to participate if you have it on the 12th. And then any of the Mondays, in talking with Serenbe, it is likely not going to be a problem if you have it on a Tuesday too. But these are the specific dates that I asked for. So if the Monday's open, it's likely that the Tuesday remains open. And just keep in mind, if you have it on the 12th, then you won't have the finance advisor present for his discussion. But I can always make arrangements for you to get his information later, or I could ask if he could prepare materials, but he just will not be present to present on the 12th.
Sure. Understood. I'd like to make a motion that we hold our training on Saturday, the 13th and Saturday, the 27th.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, can I get those dates again?
The 13th and 27th of March. 2 Saturdays.
And I have a discussion, Madam
Go ahead,
Chairman Baker.
Go ahead, Director.
Can we at all specify the time frame, 9:30 till 1:30, 10:30 to 2:30? Is that at all applicable in the motion or no?
Is not necessarily applicable in my motion. I think we do need to still work to understand the times. And I believe Attorney Walker, once she presents the dates to the folks at Serenbe, there may or may not be some restrictions unknown at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, there's a motion by Director Coleman, seconded by Director Grooms to conduct the training session on Saturday, March 13th and Saturday, March 27th. Roll call vote. Chairman Baker,
Nay.
Vice Chair Grooms,
Yes.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Nay.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Ivey,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Pierson,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
and Director Ross.
Aye.
That motion was approved 7-2.
Received. So the next thing we would have to do is determine that time, Madam Attorney, as well as the coordination of the actual schedule of what we will be doing on what day. I don't think our facilitator will be coming on both of those days. So is that something you can get back with us on, Madam Attorney?
Well, I can,
Mr. Clerk?
yeah, so I can tell you now that with those 2 dates, she would be needed for the 27th. So the 13th would be more of like the information sharing. And then the 27th would be the vision mission sharing amongst the directors. So my understanding and is that your preference would be to have this earlier versus later. And if you could just confirm that either by taking a poll or making a motion, but I do plan to ask them to set it up earlier versus later. So if we can knock them out, 8 until noon or 8 until 1 o'clock, and then just set up a breakfast and lunch for those times.
I'll entertain a motion. Anybody? Nobody? Okay, can you just find out? And then actually it's no way for us to know how to move forward if there's no appetite for either the morning or the afternoon. I'll make a motion for go ahead, Director Jiggetts.
Now, I just was going to satisfy the opportunity to make a motion.
Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
I move that we consider a day part opportunity for the 13th and the 27th. AM. Was that clear
Second.
enough?
Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving second. Any discussion?
And can I add one thing to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Director, would you be willing to add the budget in that too? That would save us from having to do a second motion with a budget not to exceed, I would say, 10,000. I don't think we're going to come close to 10,000 now that you're not having the rooms, having the accommodations, but we do need to have some type of authorization to pay and to, put whatever deposits are required and to pay for food and lodging and whatever costs are associated.
Yes, I will include that into my motion to not exceed $10,000 of the previous budget at $15,000. Is that what you're asking me, Madam Attorney?
Yes.
Yes.
Does your second still stand for that, Director Grooms?
Yes.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. In discussion?
Discussion. I just have a question, point of clarification. Are we essentially voting to opt for morning if at all possible?
Yes.
Understood.
In addition to the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Any further discussion?
Director Pollard.
I'm sorry. Who's recognized? Who wants to be recognized? Director Pollard? Yeah.
I would suggest 10 to 2. That gives folks who are participating or who are facilitating time to drive down there. It kind of breaks up the day a little bit, unfortunately, but I want to be a good steward of the facilitator's time. So I would suggest 10 to 2.
Well, do you accept that amendment to your motion? Because this is discussion.
Well, keep in mind, we
I
may
think
not
she had to
have,
just check.
yeah,
not
I
be
don't
able
know
to do
for
that.
sure
If it
what
was
hours
day
are
or
going to be
evening.
available, but I will shoot for the morning and try to get it within those time ranges. But there's just no guarantee
Okay,
as to what times we're going to be able to get.
fair enough.
Well,
But I will
also,
send a poll out if for any reason we cannot get the morning.
Receive.
also,
Director. Go ahead.
yeah,
Director.
also, if the earmark for the scheduled time is 4.5 hours, we need to go 10 to 2:30 or 9:30 to 2. Assuming there's no break for lunch, assuming that the 4.5 hours does not have a lunch build-in time, if that makes sense.
We're clear. Either way it goes. Once she finds out in the morning, we'll figure that out. If they're okay to do it in the morning, that time will be built in. We can figure that out.
Attorney Walker, if you are renting the room for a full day, I don't think you should have it from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Am I correct?
Right.
So if
I
you started
don't
at
know
10,
what the day rentals entail. Like, I did tell her that we wanted to rent the room for at a minimum 9 hours. So I do know that the price includes at a minimum 9 hours.
yeah, I don't think the price changes if your time changes to a half a day.
Okay. Yeah, I would expect that would be the policy too.
Okay, so Attorney Walker, you're clear on deciding that lunch factor as well, as far as that time goes, whenever you talk to them regarding the AM schedule.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Yes, there's a motion by Director Jiggetts, seconded by Director Grooms to conduct the trainings on both days in the morning if possible, and also authorize a budget for the retreats not to exceed $10,000. Chairman Baker,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Ivey,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Pierson,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
Director Ross.
Aye.
That motion was approved unanimously.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vivo 360, for sticking in there with us. And I'm sure you can follow up with Madam Walker or Mr. Adams, further discussion of details. And Ms. Clerk, you can sign the next item.
Yes.
Thank you, and I look forward to working with you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is item 6B, Envision South Fulton logo.
Yes, I would like to table that until our next meeting.
Okay. Next item is executive session.
Okay. I entertain a motion for executive session.
Yeah, I do have a real estate item if you'll entertain discussion on that.
I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel litigation and or real estate.
Second.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Chairman Baker.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grooms,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Jiggetts,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Ivey,
Aye.
Director Pierson,
Aye.
Director Pollard,
Aye.
and Director Ross.
Aye.
Okay, just hold 1 second. You'll get your breakout room.